Yay, we're live. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. We are here to break down the WandaVision episode 5 spoiler discussion, everything that happened. I am still in awe and confused and going a little crazy about it. I am your host, Dana Abercrombie. I am the entertainment editor at the Koalition.com, Coalition with a K, and I am joined by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you, good sir?
Doing very good, Dana. And I like your monologue about being confused because it sounds to me like you know everything that's happening in this show. So,
I I know nothing. I have gone down. Here's the thing, because I know nothing, I went down the rabbit hole where I'm just lost, and I further know nothing, but I think I know something.
okay.
That's something. So it's something, folks. Okay, so there is a lot to break down, and what I love about this, it was less than 40 minutes, but it gave us so much information that it was a lot. We got a huge ending that I thought we was gonna get for another franchise, but we didn't, and I did not see this one coming. And I am in awe, and I am shocked, and yay! So this episode 5, it started off with. Sorry, I'm just like a little bit. Whoa. So this is everything that happened because this was like the greatest thing ever. So we open up, we're in the 80s now, right? And we're in this 80s living room set where it looks exactly like Family Ties. Vision is dressed up just like the father from Family Ties, and Wanda is just like the mother, and this is Family Ties. I know a lot of people were saying that it was the other show. What was it? Full House?
Growing pains.
Growing, but you said Growing Pains.
Yeah.
Full House was trending on Twitter,
Yep.
but this is Family Ties. You could tell directly from the framing. There was a picture scene. There's a lot of things. We'll break it down. But inside of their new the same apartment, but now changed.
Hmm.
We have the twins. Now we have the twin boys. They're still little goobers, which is important to say. They're little ones, and they're just crying in their cribs. And there's light piano music that's on, and the soundtrack is nice and tinkles, and everything is really lovely. But these babies are crying, and Wanda is trying very hard to calm them down. And she looks like she's dressed in like a Reagan's era type clothes. It's great. She has the high waisted pants and the vest, and she has floral print, and she has denim. Denim was big back there, and her hair is all like zhuzhed up, right? And it's hairspray is just everywhere. I can smell the hairspray from the TV. And then we have Vision, who looks just like Michael Gross from Family Ties. And, he's just there in his regular robot face. He's not, human. And she's trying to work her magic on the kids to calm them down. And it's just not working. She tries to give them the pacifiers, and they, like, literally throw it at her. It's like, no, this is not working. And so this is when, she's trying to figure out everything that's going on, and Wanda is like, maybe we just need some help. And just like always, right every time when you say you need help or something has gone awry, who shows up? It is Agnes. Always right on time. We remember this one from the previous episode when she had to cook dinner, and Agnes was just like, "Oh, I just happened to have a four-course meal,
Yep.
just waiting right here." And it was all packed and neat and nice. So Agnes is right there, willing to help, and she just comes in, and she looks like she's all of the 80s. She looks like one of those jazzercise videos with Jane Fonda. And she has her tights on, and she says that she's up to jazzercise. She's doing her jazzercise, which is great in itself. And Vision, he's kind of nervous about Agnes taking care of the babies, and he kind of protests. And this is a very important moment because this is when he's saying, I don't think this is right. I don't know what's really going on, and that he's really nervous. And then Agnes suddenly looks up, confused, and she stammers, and
Hmm.
she says, "Do you want me to take that again?
Yeah.
Like, do you want me to take it from the top?
Hmm.
Like this is a production." And you know how when you're in rehearsal for acting, and you're doing that scene and you screw up your line, oh, let's take it from the top. And this, I don't know about you, but for me, was like the what is going on moment. How
Yeah.
did you feel?
Uh, this entire episode, it had a lot of moments like this.
This is the
That
first
was
one.
that was where it started. Yeah.
There's a lot of what, huh? But this was definitely the first one
Hmm.
where it was just like, what in the Jesus is going on? And she says that so adamantly, like she's very sure of herself. I mean, usually we get a lot of stammering or we just get a weird, awkward pause. Remember during the dinner scene with the hearts, for example, when Mr. Hart was choking and Vision didn't know what to do
Hmm.
and Wanda had to like tell him what to do? But this was a situation where the break, that silence where everybody was confused and it stayed for a while. Like it focused on the fact that they was confused, and then all of a sudden, they started laughing. That seems to be, something that they always do. But was a very important part. Usually when someone screws up or something is not right, we see the scene reset itself.
Yep.
Oh, you remember when the beekeeper came and she was like, no, and then it just kind of skipped, like you're just editing out that scene?
Yeah.
We didn't see that at all here. We just saw, do you want me to take that from the top? And everyone's like, wait, what? And everyone's all confused. And then they start laughing. And then the studio audience starts laughing. So I thought that this was a moment where I don't know if the editing or what was broken, but this is when, Agnes, I feel, kind of broke through. And this to me led me to the theory that Agnes knows Avery. Well, we knew that she knew what was going on. Remember the scene with Herb when they was trimming the hedges too much,
Yeah.
and Agnes kept trying to say what was really happening, and Herb was trying to say what was really happening, but then she didn't, and she was like Tiddaloo, and she went off on her bike that looked like the witch from the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
This one was kind of reminded me that Agnes knows everything that's going on, which kind of leads me to the theory of every time Wanda's in trouble, who's there to help her? It's Agnes.
Hmm.
She knows, I feel, she knows everything what's happening, and she is kind of a guide to Wanda. And she knows about the editing and control, and I feel about, certain glitches that's happening, and she's there to help fix that. And so for me, this is when Agnes changed from, I can't fully view her as a villain. I think, how you have, remember Legend of Zelda? Remember Navi?
Yeah.
Hey, listen! Hey! He was annoying as all can be, but what was he? He was the guide. Hey, listen! Right? So I feel that this is when she's trying to protect Wanda.
Yeah.
That's for me. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah. Yeah. The character is always coming in at the right time to
Hmm.
try and help Wanda. And in some cases, when Wanda is about to reveal her powers, uh, this person is there to stop her from doing that. So it is kind of like a sort of protection, as you say, acting as the person that is always there to help
Hmm.
whenever she's in a crisis. Um, so I definitely got that vibe. But yeah, that whole thing about yes, let's take it from the top. Yeah, it definitely stood out to everybody, including Vision, because even he questioned after, what was that all about?
Right, and Vision has been slowly having these weird moments where he's like, something's not right, I don't know what it is. But this was definitely where Vision was actually allowed to stew in his thought of something is not right.
Hmm.
And there's more stewing that goes on. But for this moment, this was like when the water starts to percolate.
Yeah.
Um, So after that happens, after the whole studio audience plays along and starts laughing, remember we don't have a clicker this time because remember in the previous episodes, Vision is kind of controlling remember they have remote controls back then.
Hmm.
They call it the clicker. Google that one. The clicker, but he didn't have the clicker, so that was the audience. It was just you reacting. Anyway, so Wanda is telling Vision not to worry about what just happened. She, forget what just happened. And Agnes is busy spraying lavender perfume on the babies, right? And she's trying to spray everything because, lavender is supposed to have that nice calming effect.
Hmm.
And I interpret it because, again, rabbit hole, I'm sorry, I intended it as lavender is the color what? Purple. Purple in MCU, we have Purple Man. Purple Man, who was played by David Tennant in Jessica Jones.
Hmm.
Remember? And what was his thing? He gave off pheromones where he was able to control women to do whatever they wanted. It gets much darker. I mean, he sexually assaulted a lot of women. But forget that aspect. Forget about that. And just the focus for me was lavender, pheromones, calming, mind control, puppetry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and we can, got no strings on me. Who also did that? Ultron.
Yes.
So,
That's a
down the
good,
rabbit hole.
very good comparison.
So, after that, she starts looking for the dark liquor to feed them. Now, this usually, if you just take this at face value, we've heard of in the past, or even probably present, parents would give their kids a little sip of alcohol to make them sleepy.
Hmm.
Benadryl is more commonly used, but same concept. But the fact that she didn't say liquor, what she said was dark liquor. And dark, means it's something dark. I took it as, kind of like magic, dark magic, that
Hmm.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was not like, well, I'm raiding your liquor cabinet. No, I'm looking for the dark leader, and the dark liquor, and I'm gonna feed it to them. So dark magic, um, yay, House of M. So
Hmm.
anyway, then all of a sudden, here's like another what the heck is going on? The sounds of the babies. Now the babies at this point, they're just crying their little baby heads off, right? The little tiny ones after being born in like what, one day. All of a sudden, they stop crying, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, did the kids Did they finally just fall asleep? Did the lavender really work?" No. What happened was they disappeared out of their cribs, and we see them as 5-year-olds,
Hmm.
which we'll get into later on. They have the ability to speed up their age. Wanda's not doing this. This also explains the growth of when they were being gestated.
Hmm.
So that's how she was able to basically give birth in like what, 2 days, maybe?
Yeah.
So yes. So now they're 5-year-olds. And Agnes is like, kids, hey? Now usually at this point, if I know that you had a tiny goober and then all of a sudden your goobers are 5-year-olds, I'm gonna freak out. Agnes does that. Agnes instead says, you can't control them no matter how much you try. And it's like, what? She's not freaking out. She's like, yeah, now they're 5. What's next? Which again leads me to believe she knows exactly what's going on. She's in on what's going on.
Yeah.
So she's not going to freak out and be like, oh my God, what's going on? Not at all. But the fact that she also says can't control them no matter how much you try, that's foreshadowing to me.
Hmm.
Because this whole thing that we've been through is about control.
Yep.
And puppetry and what's going on. Whom is controlling whom? Is it Wanda controlling Vision? Is it someone else controlling Wanda? We don't know. So I really liked how they did that. You remember they kept saying the devil's in the details. You have to pay attention to everything. So then we cut from that. And we're going to the 80s styles intro, which is kind of, it's really interesting. So we have this 80s styles intro, which is the show within the show. And this is like, it's all like sentimental and nice, and it's like crossing our fingers, singing a song, we're making it up as we go along. Because that's kind of what Wanda's doing.
Hmm.
Um, and this is like really happy theme music. And then is what we're gonna get really traumatized from. There's a montage of photos, and in the photos, it's Vision and Wanda as them being young, and we see Wanda. She's in, oh God, what was that country? Sokovia. Sorry, almost said Czechoslovakia. She is in Sokovia, and she's in like how you have like the kid and you have the little puffy curly hair, and she's all like smiling. But what you don't see behind her is all of the devastation. Because remember, she explained growing up there was nothing but war.
Hmm.
Remember, the bombs was coming, so you see all this devastation behind her, and you see literally the city crumbling. It looks like Syria, but she's all like happy and smiling. And then you go into a really horrifying version, and this is Baby Vision. Just traumatizing. And you see little Baby Vision and his little Baby Vision esque toddler self, and you're like, oh, wow, that's scary. Um, and then I don't know how you feel, but your laughter makes me think that you thought
Yeah,
this was funny.
I think you already mentioned that. Yeah, everyone is acting. They have a role they have to play, and they want
Hmm.
to keep the act going. But when I saw the Vision pictures of when he was a kid, my reaction was to laugh because you could tell that those pictures are fake because we know Vision is not a human. He is,
Essentially.
he's an android. So it was funny to see that because it just that was my instant reaction when I saw it. I laugh. The picture of him as a baby. Come on now, man. We
It
know
was.
this. He's not a. That's not how that went down. But it was entertaining. So it served the purpose because again, the show that it was taking from, you said Family Ties.
Hmm.
That
Family
show,
Ties.
as well as Growing Pains, when the show started, the intro would show all the pictures of the cast at different ages. So I really like how they did that for sure. But I did laugh when I saw Vision as a baby.
That was scary. Which also is really interesting that they showed Vision in Vision's form as a baby, and
Yeah.
not in human form as a baby, like little tall Bettany running around. They showed Vision. That oh gosh, that was it was hilarious and traumatizing all at once. I loved it. Um, so this was like the best little part I felt that they could have just did. That thing was just hilarious to me.
Hmm.
So then after that, we have Monica. We're outside the bubble now. And Monica is in a hospital bed. Now, remember in the previous episode, this is when Wanda was like, Hadouken! And she kicked him out. She kicked her out of the bubble. And, Sword picked her up. And she was like, it's Wanda. The whole thing is Wanda. Right? And so now she's in a hospital bed. And she's being tested by some sort of device where they're able to, you know, figure out how if she's been harmed or if there's any kind of radiation, which is very important because you all know that Monica has powers. And so we hear her like an audio of her being questioned by Tyler, and they're at some kind of debriefing session. And she kept saying, there was this feeling keeping me down, this feeling of hopelessness. Well, this feeling of hopeless. Wait, sorry. Let's take it from top. There was this feeling keeping me down, this hopeless feeling like drowning. And she's telling him this, and she was saying it was grief. And that would make sense to me because what is the one emotion that Wanda could possibly always be feeling? Grief.
Yep.
So, and if you remember in Age of Ultron, remember when she does that little mind thing? Everyone is usually in pain
Hmm.
when it shows that. Um, so remember, it screwed up Thor's head. It screwed up Iron Man. So this is just not exactly a happy, euphoric feeling. So then we have Jimmy and Darcy. They are walking in, and Darcy's kind of like flipping out and like, "Oh my God, I'm a big fan," and which is weird because Darcy is kind of always really cynical and super sarcastic. So to see her fan out was really cute. Um, and then we know that Monica's test. They said that it looked weird, but it's nothing. Um, and there's nothing really that they can find that's wrong with her. But before we kind of hear more, we transition to Tyler's briefing on what comes next. And this is a very important part because you didn't catch this.
Uh oh.
So this is when he has everyone kind of surrounded in their little room. It looks like a nice little war room, and everyone's around and then like different agents and analysts. And he's saying, we know Wanda's the principal victimizer, and he starts characterizing her as a terrorist and that she's terrible. Remember the things that she did in Civil War. So,
Yep.
and then there's all this nuclear power, so she's just running around and she's being terrible. And Jimmy, Monica, and Darcy are kind of like, nah, I don't think that's true. Like, really kind of to the point where they're getting frustrated. And Monica is like, you know, she starts speaking up and she's standing for Wanda. And this was like such a yay moment because she says that Wanda doesn't have the inclination to destruction or political agenda, which, that's how you define a terrorist.
Mhm.
Yeah, like we saw terroristic actions recently. That would be a terrorist. But Wanda, she does not want to destroy any kind of, just building or a kind of symbol, or she doesn't want to kill any kind of politician. She's not there to assassinate people. This is not really a terrorist at all. And she is, very adamant and she's supporting Wanda. And this is supposed to be, like a callback to Civil War, which we know what happened with Civil War. Remember Civil War?
Yeah.
When it started, because of her, technically we have the Sokovia Accords, which is when, was it Crossbones? I'm not sure which one it was. But anyway, it was the guy, it's Crossbones, who was trying to blow himself up.
Yep.
And Wanda was like, "No, I got it," and she was trying to hold in the power of the nuke of the bomb.
Yep.
And she
And it
lost
went to
control.
that building. Mm-hmm.
And it went to the building, but it was not a terroristic act. This was literally a mistake. This was, I can't control everything.
Yeah.
And it was a legit accident. Yeah.
But you see, that right there is it shows you the power of the tactic that is used to make her look as though she is the villain, because just as we've seen multiple times with when a certain attack happens, the media will have a certain perception as to the person that caused the attack, because we know after that happened in the Avengers movie, the Avengers were looked upon as terrorists. They were just horrible, all this other stuff, because the narrative was twisted. So I definitely understand now, because I know we spoke before we started recording, why this guy did that, because a lot of people would still believe this person could be a threat because of what she did previously.
Right. This seems like this is one of those situations where you're trying to paint someone as a villain, so you're going really hard, and he's coming across as just being a pure hater, and he's like, she's terrorist. We got to stop her, no matter what. Everyone is being a victim. Look at what she's doing, and he's saying this. Meanwhile, it's very interesting. He has, his jacket, your sword jacket. His collar is popped up. And it's popped up, and his tie has hexagons on it. And as we've seen earlier in his office, there's hexagon shapes all around. And what we know is that whole bubble thing that she's in, it has shapes of hexagon, which is why, what are we calling it? The hex. Remember, there's the hexagon shapes are everywhere. And if you read the comics, who has hexagons everywhere? Mephisto, who
yes,
in the MCU would be the equivalent of the devil.
Okay.
Which call back on the devil's in the details.
Yes. I wanted to ask you a question because I saw that we actually had a question. Shout out to Lennon Poole. He asked, do you think Vision will make it out of WandaVision alive or not?
Who is to say that he's not already dead? Like, here's the thing. Nobody knows if he's dead. What is the actual condition of Vision? He could be alive, and then, later on he has to die. Because in order to break Wanda out of this whole thing, this is a reality. He may not be real.
Well, here's the question. This takes place after Endgame. So Vision, it would be dead in the real world, correct? Unless this is an alternate.
Remember.
Yeah.
Because remember, Darcy was like, "Isn't he dead?
Yeah.
Where's Vision? What's going on? He did." Darcy is basically us in the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think he's gonna make it out alive. I don't think so. I
Yeah.
think in order to drive this story a point, and if you get in, the fact that Monica was feeling grief is exactly what Wanda is feeling, and I think in order to get over that, that person has to go, and you have
Yep.
to let that person go. So I honestly don't want to see Vision anymore.
And I also believe he will not make it out alive either, because when you get into it later, the scene at towards the end of the episode
Hmm.
when both of her sons, they lost the dog, and they asked, if Wanda could bring them back alive, and she said no. And then right when they were having that discussion, who shows up?
We'll
Vision.
see. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. So I think it would be a emotional gut punch to the audience if at the end of this particular season, Wanda and Vision do come face to face with the actual villain, and after they take care of the villain, this is when Vision says his goodbye to Wanda. That would be a very dramatic, emotional ending to that, but I definitely can see that happening, if that's the direction that they're going to take.
You got to give it a Tony Stark moment. Remember,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can rest now. I'm like, I'm crying, and that was a tear goes so deep. Anyway, so sad.
Mhm.
So, yes. So we are at the point where Mr. Haywood. I lost his name, Tyler.
Tyler, yeah.
Tyler is basically, she's a terrorist, nerd, and he has his hexagon shaped tie, and he's becoming like really adamant, really sinister, and his collar is popped, but it's not like regular popped. It's popped in the way that Mephisto wears it popped, and how we'll see later on in like other shots with when we get to the other episodes of the devil costume, which is not the devil costume, but anyway. So then here's a very interesting point that ties directly to Endgame that Kevin Feige mentioned. So this is when Tyler is like, gather around, people, so you can hear my lies. And Tyler starts showing everyone the security footage from 9 days prior.
Hmm.
So, very important. 9 days prior would mean that this whole bubble situation is like what? About a week old.
Yeah.
Almost a week old. It's not even that long, and we're just popping through the decades, which I wonder if it's just really great. So anyway, so the camera footage is from 9 days prior, in which it seems that Wanda broke into Sword to steal Vision's corpse that was destroyed and killed and murdered twice by Thanos in Infinity War.
Mm.
Now, no one, if you notice, no one mentioned this. Like, hey, here comes Vision. I thought he was dead because, we have his body. No one said that at all.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, that's something I would mention, but no one said that. And, Tyler, he's been watching because Darcy's been hooking up everything. He was watching right there when the TV was able to come on. So he could have been like, hey, what's going on? So very interesting that he would wait for so long. But then it seems like Tyler, he starts pointing out that resurrecting Vision was a direct violation of the Sokovia Accords. Now remember, this is the whole thing that was passed during Civil War, where you kind of limited the Avengers and what they could do, and everything had to be like a government order. Like you couldn't just be out there and be Captain Save-A-Ho. You had to like go through the government
Yeah.
and work for them.
Hmm.
So this directly violated the Sokovia Accords because she kind of just resurrected a nuclear weapon. Vision, remember the Mind Stone? Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Jimmy is like saying that Vision's living will also said that he is not to be bought back. He is not to be used as a weapon. Which is like really interesting because I didn't know robots can't write wills. But But like, was he planning? Like, did he know he was gonna die during this whole thing? Like, you remember how
Well,
Tony Stark did the? Oh, yeah,
yeah, is it possible that Tony played a role in getting that will written for Vision?
maybe because remember he left the whole video package saying, "If I die, watch this."
Yeah.
And he was dead. So then I was like wondering, oh, and then remember, Tony was like for the, yeah, he for the, oh shoot, I'm getting old. He was for the Accords
Yeah. Yeah.
because of the whole robot situation.
Hmm.
Captain America wasn't for the
And
Accords.
that's what led to that the
That
confrontation.
and then Bucky got involved, and that was a whole nother thing.
Isn't it?
Brooklyn. Anyway, so yes, um, so that is what happened with that. It is a direct violation, and that he's being used as a weapon. And I'm like, who weaponized him yet? Because we just know he's stuck in the bubble. It's
Yeah.
not like Vision is controlling people in the bubble. So I'm like, where is the weapon from? So he is trying to say that Wanda is going to turn Vision into a weapon. I'm
Hmm.
assuming.
Yep. That's
Um,
exactly what he's saying.
Yes. So then he says, Maximoff, in her grief, disregarded his wishes. Um, Everyone is dismissed after that. And Darcy is like, what happens when he learns the truth? And you know, she's saying what happens when, Vision kind of realizes what's going on.
Hmm.
Um, so that was a very interesting and kind of like, oh, sad moment. So then we're back into the 80s TV show. And this is when the twin boys are like playing in the kitchen and they're bathing. What we see is the dog. And they're like trying to hide the dog from mom, but you know how you see those kids movies where like they're doing a really bad job at it and
Hmm.
being really obvious. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about, mom. And then something starts barking, like, ruff, ruff, ruff. And then the kid is like, I don't know, ruff, ruff, that kind of thing. So it's really cute. Wanda notices that there's a dog because the sink is like full of bubbles and there's a literal dog standing in the sink. And they're all like, can we keep him? Please, mom. Every family you have to have the dog. It's, the part of everything, of sitcom life and regular life. And Wanda's kind of like, no, but then, she's like, oh, smooky woogie woogie, and she loves the pup. And then this is when Vision walks in and he's like, I don't know. And this is when he kind of changes to a human one because his human face, sorry, because he's able to sense that someone is about to walk in. And then when he says that, guess who walks in? This is your cue, Richard. Guess who
Who?
walks in?
Who walks in?
Agnes!
No,
And
I said that because let's see if people are paying attention.
so Agnes walks in, and what does she just happen to have? A doghouse. Agnes does not have a dog, from what we know. But my gosh, she has that doghouse just so conveniently there, which is kind of making Vision even more suspicious. He's like, what is going on? Are we bugged? I don't get this. Oh, I just said, are we bugged? And I meant that as a joke. But maybe this is how Agnes is able to see everything. Anyway,
Hmm.
so going on. He gets upset at this point because Wanda starts using her magic to create a dog collar. And she does this right in front of Agnes. And what have we known since the beginning of the first episode? They're trying to keep, people from knowing about who they really are.
Yeah.
They're trying to keep their powers a secret. This is just like Bewitched. Remember with I forgot his name, but and the other guy's name. But the whole purpose of this was to keep everything a secret.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember when so she's always hiding her powers from everyone. But then she's getting like real bold, like, oh, screw it type of situation. And Vision is like, what is going on? He's like, I don't get this. And so Agnes is kind of like, I don't really care. I mean, she did technically see little tiny babies grow into 5-year-olds in like a blink of an eye, and she doesn't question it. So Vision is becoming very worried, and he doesn't understand, why is she being so bold? And he says to her, "What aren't you telling me?" And this is what he's like, what is going on? You're keeping secrets from me. And Wanda is instead, she goes and she tells Billy and Tommy um, that they won't be ready to care for an animal until they're at least 10. And then what happens? They
Yep.
look at each other and they're like, oh, really? Boop, we're 10 now. So now they're 10. And they just age right up. And we see instead, because usually, the kid was hiding and then they come back and they're 5. We see the actual transformation of
Mhm.
them going from 5 to 10 years old. And they did it right in front of Agnes.
Mhm.
And instead of Agnes, once again, freaking out or doing what normal people would do, oh my God, voodoo, says, let's just hope this dog stays the same. And Agnes says, woof woof. So she really doesn't, she knows what's going on right there.
Oh yeah.
This is like throwing all caution to the wind. So then we're back at Jimmy, Monica, and Darcy. And they're back at the base. And Monica, they're building some type of mobile bunker that they're able to use to enter Westview. And they know because Monica is an aerospace engineer. So everyone's like, yay! Um, wait, no, I'm telling this wrong. They're trying to build an wait, no. They're trying to build a mobile bunker in order to get inside of Westview. Now remember, they've been trying to get inside, but every time they do, their devices turn into little toys.
Mhm.
Remember, from the helicopter to, we'll see later on what goes on, but they're turning into toys. And instead, what they've decided is that they're going to find this person who is an aerospace engineer who can help them. They don't say who the name is. We don't know where they're from. And, as the story progresses, we don't know which franchise they could even be from. Um, so this is when Darcy starts coining everything the hex, because it's it's hexagonal and its
Mhm.
shape it's very literal. Um, so, and we also know, if you read the comics, that this kind of pays homage to the powers that Wanda has in the comics. So, Jimmy starts telling everyone that they don't know who the twin boys were before Wanda shows up and seemingly took control of everything. So they're trying to find out if the twins were, from someone like a real people who lived in the town. And Monica, because she was there at the birth, she delivered the babies. She says that they were created by Wanda. But then Jimmy is kind of like, no, the Avengers they have this ability to create illusions. Remember again when Wanda does in Age of Ultron? Remember, it literally changed what Thor was seeing and what Hawkeye and everyone else was seeing.
Yep.
So Jimmy's insistent that they're not real, but because Monica was right there, she's like, no, they're real. Um, and then, Darcy is like, well, in order to create life, it would require an enormous amount of power. So then they're wondering, is this something that Wanda fully has power over? Or is this someone that is helping, feeding off of her, or, feeding her extra power? Or someone who may have other controls. Remember? We don't know who's in control of this.
Yeah.
So, this is when Monica is like really upset, and she's like, Wanda's really great. She's powerful on her own. She actually mentioned that she would have killed Thanos if it wasn't for remember the Blitz, when they went and just randomly shot down an
Mhm.
in-game. So I was like, yes, that's true. And then this is the interesting part. Jimmy is like, yeah, that's great, but Captain Marvel was actually the one who saved the day and could have easily taken the whole glove off if it wasn't for that whole, situation that was going down. And then this is when Monica gets the stink face. And
Mhm.
she's like, I'm not talking about her. We're talking about Wanda. And then this is
Oh.
like, well, what's really going on? Because we do know that Monica is going to be in Captain Marvel too.
Yep.
But apparently there's some type of, disdain,
Conflict. Yep.
conflict of interest, conflict of something that's going on that we don't know. So if we do know that, maybe
It.
she was abandoned by
Oh,
her.
I'm gonna make a theory.
Mhm.
Obviously, this is off topic, but I would guess that we know that Monica's mom passed away, and I'm guessing that Captain Marvel was not around when she had an opportunity to make sure that she saw her before she passed. So maybe she took that personal, because we do know that Monica, as they showed in episode 4, she did disappear with the
Mhm.
snap.
Mhm.
So but prior to that, when her mom was sick, it's very possible Captain Marvel and they were very good friends. She did not show up at those times when that went down, so she could feel a certain type of way about that also. But
But
we'll have to see.
timeline wise, this is what doesn't make sense. Because the snap happened, everyone was snapped for 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So during that time period, Monica snapped away. Um, the mom got cleared of cancer for
Yep.
3 years, right?
Hmm.
Then after 3 years, it came back during the third year, and she lived for 2 more years, from my understanding, right?
I think it
Because we do know it returns.
she was sick. Um, we have to check that. I think so. I know that the first time she was sick, obviously Monica was there, because when she came back, she asked, how's her mom? She's in, because she said that because they did the procedure before she had disappeared, and
Hmm.
she had the indication that everything was fine. The procedure
Right,
was successful, but in that time frame after that, that's when her mom got sick again and passed.
right,
Um, so she wasn't there the second time around. She missed her,
right.
but I don't know how much time that was. So we have to check that.
But within that whole time period,
Hmm.
Monica was snapped away.
Yeah.
So that means her mom recovered, got cancer again, died, all in the time period that Monica was snapped away.
Yep.
So unless she has direct communication with Captain Marvel, she doesn't know what Captain Marvel did during those 5 years.
That's true.
And also at that time, if we go back to, was it Endgame? It was Endgame. Because remember when everyone looked all like sad and pathetic, and they had to basically Zoom conference in everyone?
Yeah.
And that's when we saw Captain America cut her hair off.
Hmm.
And that's when the rat made the comment like, "Oh, look at your hairstyle." And she's like, remember, she's like, "You're not the only planet here. There are other planets that need my help that were affected by the snap
Exactly. Yep.
or the blitz or whatever you want to call it." But she was the blip. So she was saying that. So she was busy helping other people. And while she is very close with Monica's mom, whose name is Maria, there was other things that had to happen, and then we don't know what that relationship was. Did they talk again and they fall out? I don't know.
That I feel like we'll get answers for that in Captain Marvel too. I know that I believe that Kevin Feige said before that in Captain Marvel 2, you'll get a more of an understanding of the galaxy and how the fallout was. So some of those questions might get answered. Because again, when we saw Avengers Endgame and stuff, we saw the snap, but how it impacted everyone on Earth. We didn't see how it impacted, others outside of Earth. So I'm assuming that we are going to see that when these other movies start out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what happened.
Yeah.
And so they're mad at each other. And she this is when she kind of has an idea, and she goes to the storage room where when Monica came out of the bubble, like the hex. When she came out of the hex, she was wearing that 70s outfit, and they have they have the outfit still there. And she starts firing a gun at the clothing, and the bullets are bouncing off of it. And she's like, "Oh, it's made of Kevlar." And she says that it is made of Kevlar, and that she was wearing her bulletproof vest when she entered, which means that Wanda is rewriting reality. So she's changing things as they go into the hex, so that they match the show within a show. So that's when she's realizing, what if, we need to bring in something that requires no change.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then we go to Vision's office. And this is when you're like, what the heck is going on? So we're at the Vision office. Remember, we're in the 80s now, and all the employees are like staring at their new cutting edge computers. It's like right around when computers started coming out. And Vision is able to log into the internet. We all know why. Computers speak to each other, and Norm is his colleague, and that he's really excited to get the electronic mail. And so they start pulling up an email, and the email is from Sword. And all of the employees start reading the message in unison.
Hmm.
Just like, remember when Bucky, Winter Soldier, in order to put him under, you had to recite these certain words,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
he would be brainwashed.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, we had the Hydra soap, which Clausen from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. said this is how they brainwashed you.
Mm-hmm.
We saw the Hydra soap commercial. So everyone starts reading the message in unison, and it's a message from Darcy about the hex. But everyone starts laughing. This is not real, so they think it's a joke. Right? But
Yep.
this is when Vision is able, he's like working with the computer, and he's like touching the sides of the computer. And then all of a sudden he touches Norm's temples with his powers. And, this all of a sudden he starts remembering who he was before Wanda came to town. And he starts, you could see he's panicking, he's in pain, he's hurting, he's anguished, and he's like, you have to stop her. And Vision is like, stop who? And she's in my head. She's in my head. And then Norm starts, he's saying, just make her stop. And then Vision touches his head again. And he turns back into like, hey, bud, what's going on? Look at that computer. Should we put a stamp on that electronic mail? And he goes, right. So he's back to normal. So this means whatever energy or force field, it seems that Vision is the anti-version or I don't know, serum? Maybe? To whatever Wanda's powers are.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because he's able to electronically touch the computer and get electronic, because remember, he's a robot. Remember, he's also the son of Ultron. Remember Ultron? Remember when he went into the internet and was like, after he killed Jarvis, he just bounced into the internet? And Bruce Banner was like, he could be anywhere. He could be in your phone. That whole scene? So, I don't know what the connection is between touching, the computer and then being able to snap people out of what's really going on. I don't know if his Mind Stone is able to control Wanda's powers. I don't know. So that leaves a lot to question. Do you have any theories?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to try and figure out right now. I know that obviously there's conflict between Wanda and Vision. You're almost about to get to that point, as far as what happened in the episode. So I would say, well, Vision knows he was suspecting something was going on. But then when he had the interaction with his coworker, and now for a fact, something is up, and he's going to try to get to the bottom of it.
Right. So then it's really also interesting about the fact that he doesn't say make Wanda stop. He instead says make her stop.
Yeah.
Which, if I know someone who's controlling me, I'm going to know who that person is. But instead of saying Wanda, stop, make her stop, your wife is doing this, make her stop, he keeps saying she, which to me kind of makes it feel that this is not all Wanda's doing.
Yeah.
She may be playing a role, but in forms of controlling people and everything else. Remember, Darcy kept saying she requires a large amount of power. So she has to control people. She has to get pregnant. So that's an interesting little thing, something that is not what we fully think it is. So then we go back to the boys, which are teaching the dog a new trick. And they're asking for their father. Where's Papa? 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 And, Wanda is saying that he is in office. And the kids are like, on a Saturday? And she's like, we need a distraction. And sometimes your dad, oh, sorry, sometimes your dad and I just aren't on the same page. But that's just temporary. And the kids are like, what the heck do you mean? Like, what's going on? And so this is when it gets really interesting. And it says, one of the boys asked if Wanda, like them, has a brother. Just a random innocent kids are nosy just like that and they do that. And she's like, yeah, I do.
Hmm.
And then she starts, when you're like about to cry and your eyes get all glossy and you're like, oh, stop, pull it in, hold it in. And she's explaining, he's far away from here. And that makes me sad sometimes. And that's when the dog runs to the door and starts growling. And, something is scaring them, says one of the little boys. And they walk outside, and this is what they see in the 80s. They see a drone flying above Westview, and it is being guided by the Tyler
Yep.
and the VT, the other person who's like the other guy on the side. They're controlling the drone. And we learn that the device was made from tech from the 80s, um, which means that it can't be changed because it's from the 80s.
Hmm.
So, for example, remember we had the bulletproof vest turned into bulletproof pants and the clothes. So this one can't transform, which is why when we had the whole helicopter in the 50s, it changed into a little toy. Can't do that. So therefore the drone stays a drone. And so Wanda looks up and she sees the drone, and you have the black and white footage, but you see her red eyes and they're glowing. And we all know what that means. And this is when Tyler starts screaming, take the shot! And then a projectile flies from the drone and the feed cuts. And Monica, before she can fully understand what's going on, there's an alarm, and the alarm starts blaring, pew, 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 and the soldiers are like running out there, and they're saying that this is an anomaly, and you're like, oh snap, what's coming out of there? And so everyone is running outside, and they had all their guns, right? And they're all at the ready. And there's energy that it emerges from the figure. And I'm like, who the heck is this? And it's Wanda. It's Wanda who emerges. So Wanda is fully aware of where she is, what she's doing, and the whole hex. Because she walks out there like, you remember Angela Bassett when she blew up the car and wouldn't exhale?
Hmm.
She is walking out there like, yeah, I lit the flame. And she is angry. But this is very interesting. Remember how we saw her in her poofy, spoofy hair and like the high pants and the flowered shirt, and she's all like 80s?
Yeah.
Wanda is in her old Avengers outfit. And she's holding the droid that's destroyed. The drone. I said the droid. Chow.
Oh.
She's holding the drone. Remember, they was going to fire a drone at her. It
Yep.
was going to basically kill her, which would hit the kids and the dog and the town. Anyway, so she's like, and this is really interesting. Her accent comes back. Remember that awful accent that she had from Age of Ultron? So
Hmm.
her accent comes back and says, "This will be your only warning." And she says, "Stay out of my home." And this is her home. She goes home. She knows exactly what it is, and she has like the accent is like really thick. But here's also it kind of fades in and out. Like she's kind of losing who she once was, or maybe because she's been hiding for so long, trying to blend in, that she kind of loses the strength of the accent. And so it's like, stay out of my home. All right now? So it's all in and out. So, I'm going to hope that it's that, and that she also never really mastered the accent, but whatever. So then we have Wanda is saying, that she's not the one with guns. She's not here hurting anybody. You guys are the one who has everything. And Monica's like, but you are the one in control. She's like, you're doing this. Urgh. And this is when Wanda, she responds, and she's like, Wanda says, I'm starting to suspect she's not the one in control. No, she doesn't say that. the thing is that she kept seeing that I am goofing up everything. She keeps seeing that she's the one in control, but it doesn't really feel that way. What she does say is, "I have what I want, and no one will ever take it from me again,"
Yep.
which we all know is a callback to when Vision died. No
Yep.
one is going to take it away from me. But she doesn't say that I'm the one in control. Monica is the one who's saying, but you are the one in control.
Hmm.
She never says that she's in control. She's saying, I have what I want, and no one is going to take it away from me again, which to me means that this is some sort of deal that she made. Because I have
That's a
what I
good.
want
That's a
now.
good. That's a very good theory.
Yeah. So, this whole thing is not just her doing. I feel that she is doing a little bargaining chip. You know,
So,
if you do this for me, you'll have this.
so are you saying that she might have made a deal with the devil?
There you go. There you go. She
Yeah.
could have made the deal with the devil. And that is what is really going on. So, so then we have after that, Wanda, she says, after she's like, I had no one's gonna take it away from me again. She says before using her powers to basically mind control everyone, she's she turns their guns on Tyler. And it's like, are you ready to do this right now? So she turns everything. Remember, he has the whole team,
Yep.
and she's basically letting him know that I can control anything that I want to. You're messing with someone who's way more powerful than you. You come with your little tiny cute guns, but that's really nice. And this was also a very interesting part because we'll get into this later. The way how everyone's pointing their guns over and they're looking at her, and then she does whatever she does, and they're like, pew. You know what it reminded me of?
Well, what's that?
And this is how we can now say it's similar. Remember in X-Men, every time that they tried to kill Magneto,
Oh yeah. Yep.
Magneto has the power to control iron. And so anytime that they came with their guns drawn, what did he do? Take the guns and draw them on them, flip the bullets and put it on them. I was like, oh, okay now. And we can
Yeah.
finally make that comparison. So I'm very happy. So she goes back into the hex. She's like, screw you, figure it out, go kill yourself. So this is when we get the lovely commercial break. And this is the best and the most savage commercial of WandaVision so far. I'm scared to see how they're up their game with this one. So we see in the commercial, there's a lady who's trying to deal with the liquid spills all over her countertop. And it's not even like a little spill. These are like glass, full glass of red juice, by the way. And it says, Lagos brand paper towel. And this is when I'm like, what? And then there's the slogan, there's the voiceover that happens. And it says, Lagos, for when you make a mess, you didn't mean to. Dum-dum. For those who don't get this, Lagos was the city that Wanda accidentally killed all of those people in Civil War. When she got remember, Crossbones
Wow.
blowing himself up, she got the bomb, she's like, and remember she's doing this, and then all of a sudden, and it flies into that building, and it kills those Wakandians.
Wow.
And
Wow.
then remember, all of the Wakandans are dead, and then that's when that lady who played, it wasn't Viola Davis. It was that
No.
other woman who I
She played
can't
the
remember.
the mother of one of the people that got killed in that.
She played the mother from one of the people who got killed, who was also in the black movie, not the black movie, the black TV show that was MCU that I can't remember because they canceled it.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It was with the Iron Fist in them. So,
Oh. Yeah.
it's so sad. I can't remember
Luke
that.
Cage. Luke
Luke
Cage.
Cage. She played the
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah.
She played one of the characters in Luke Cage.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she was the mother of one of the Wakandans who was killed in the building of Lagos. So when they said, "For when you make a mess you didn't mean to,"
That makes a lot of sense now because I was wondering why that name sounded familiar.
hmm
Um, I didn't go back and check that. So that's that. Well, yeah, that is savage. Now that I
that's
know the
savage.
context.
And then the juice that's being spilled is like red.
Yep.
It's like red Kool-Aid, and I'm like, this is, and it spills over the countertop, which
hmm
you could say is the side of a building.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is so cold-blooded. Dark humor. Really, really dark humor. So, then, after the commercials, here's where we get to things getting even more interesting. They just keep one-upping each other. The boys are looking for their dog with Wanda, and they can't find the dog, and the local mailman, you know, he's saying, I'll help you find them. But we don't know who that guy is. We never see his face. And this is the mailman who we saw Agnes was checking out before. She was like,
hmm
oh, but we don't see his face. We don't know who he is. Could he be, another person who is part of this whole thing? Is he in the know? Is he just extra? Is he really an extra? We don't know, who he is. Could he come back and play a role? Don't know. So we do get random appearances from him. So I don't think that this is something that's just something that just happens that we shouldn't pay attention to.
Yeah.
But he makes those cameo appearances and we never see his face. So then all of a sudden, they're looking for the dog and everything. We kind of see like the bushes are rustling, right? And they're making this noise. And then here comes Agnes. And Agnes is holding the dog in a blanket and it covers him completely. And she's telling the story. She tells the story that basically the dog ate some poisonous leaves and that's how he died.
Mm,
And she came there too late
mm.
to save the dog. And the boys, they look to Mommy. Mommy, you can do anything. Mommy, you always own this. Bring him back.
hmm
And she's like, we can't reverse death no matter how sad it makes us. Foreshadowing, maybe?
Yep. Yep.
I think so.
hmm
So, she's been through a lot of pain. She's been through a lot of death. Remember, she lost both of her parents. She lost her brother.
hmm
She lost her robot man.
hmm
I don't know if she lost friends and family during that whole Civil War period when she was growing up. But we saw the ruins of the town. We saw her trying to be a happy girl, but just ruins all around her.
Yeah.
And she lost her country.
And she also was involved in the incident where all those people got killed.
And she couldn't bring those
Yeah.
people back.
Yep.
So this is a hot mess. This poor child is going through it. She is through it. And so we get again with the whole grief and the boys are like, nah, we ain't hearing this. We sorry, but we ain't hearing this. Do something. And that's when Vision walks up to them and he's like, it's time for you to go home. And that just made me so sad because I'm like, home? Or is it their home? Who's home? Are you dead home? Are you in the cemetery? What's going on? So this kind of made me wonder, in order to move the story forward and to create a plot, something has to happen, like the dog dying, right?
Yeah.
And again, it was Agnes who's always moving a plot forward. I got a dog. Here's the doghouse that you randomly know of. Oh gosh, I have no food for dinner because you're a robot. Oh, here's a 4-course meal that I just had laying around. So this made me wonder, in order to move this plot and this grief theme along, did Agnes kill the dog?
Uh, that's very possible.
She killed the dog.
In the case of the food, we know that she didn't really impact what happened with that because I believe it was Vision's boss had choked on the food.
Uh-huh.
But she definitely could have. You definitely can question whether or not she, helped to speed up that process of the dog getting, dying. I guess
Yeah.
we'll have to wait and see what the answer is for that next week.
I think she killed the dog. Because it's like, oh, here's the dog that I just randomly found.
Yeah.
So, yeah. and then poisonous bushes. The
Yeah,
leaves are poison. So
that's possible. Like absolutely valid point.
just so sad. I'm trying to like see what this poison relates to, but I'm not getting anything. I'm like, wait, was Vision poisoned? And I'm like, no, he's a robot. So then we go to the boys are away, and this is when you're like, what is going on? There's a lot of what is going on moments. So this is the most confrontational scene that I think I've ever seen. Vision throughout this whole time has been playing through the motions. He's just been playing through the script. You know, he just follows along. And from day one, we've seen him as the happy cherry. I don't remember anything, but look, now we're married. And he just goes along mindfully. Everything. You know, remember the point when he's like with the clicker, the TV clicker, in order to make the audience noises. So he's just playing along, and this is like when I see Vision is like snapping out of it. And Vision starts confronting Wanda about Norm. And remember, he's the guy who was like, help, help, she's doing this, right? And he's saying, you can't control me the way you do them. And Wanda is like, nope, not today. We're not going to do this. So she starts rolling the credits, and the audience is like, yay, the show's over.
Yeah.
Right? But Vision, through his anger, is like, not today, Satan. And he keeps going on with his monologue. And this is when I feel we get the infamous MCU after credits.
Yeah, yep.
Everything from here, from me, because the credits are rolling, is that after credit scene. We get the mid credits and then the after credits. So this is when he's like, you know, you can't control me, and the audience is like, yay, and Vision walks through. Remember, they go through a kitchen.
Yep.
And he walks through. And when he walks through, if you pay attention to that screen, the screen glitches.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's a very quick one, and you hear this force of like whoosh, like a whooshing sound of him, like, you know how when Wanda broke through the hex,
Yeah.
and you kind of hear that whoosh sound. So he whooshed through that sound, where he now is able to control this episode. And so he's yelling at her, you know, he's what's at Rescue, and this is when he starts rising, right? And he's like, she's like, you don't want to know, I promise you. And he's like, something's not right. We have kids, you know, there's a playground that I walk to work every day, and it's empty. What is going on? Who is out? What is outside of Westview? And she's like, you don't want to know, I promise you. And Vision says, I can't remember anything before Westview. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know how he got there, and he is just angry. And he is like, you know, what's going on? And Wanda asks whether or not being her husband and the father of her children is not enough. Why won't you just play this role? And he's like, screw your roles. I am forging my own role. What is going on? I can't remember anything. And he is yelling. This is like a really great moment where they have with each other, and they're in the air, because you're like, whoop, and you're like, whoop, oh shoot, they're gonna kill each other. And this is like incredible. And so this is the point where, you know, she's like, just be happy, and he's like, I need more than that. You know, where are the kids? You know, what's going on? And it's like, you know what? I kind of never noticed that. When you, like everything he's pointing out, I never really noticed that. Like they have the backyard, you know, you can see that they have kids.
Yeah.
But the neighbors' kids you never hear of. You never hear of happy, smiley anything. Which is why if you looked at, remember the Halloween episode? That was the trick-or-treating, and I never paid attention to that because I figured there was always kids in the town because we saw the trailer for the Halloween episode. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll start getting kids. And then whose
maybe.
kids
Maybe.
we're getting.
Well, now that it's been pointed out, yeah, maybe.
So then, this is when they whoosh down, and she sits back on the couch, and she's like, do you really think I'm controlling everything? And that how is she able to make everyone do their task? How is she able to, you know, control every single person in their daily lives and every thought and crevice, and also control him, and control the kids, and control everything all at once? She does not have that power. She is letting you know, I don't have the power, but why aren't you happy with what we have? Which again alludes to, she's not the only one doing this. She knows what's going on. She doesn't probably understand the extent or the consequences to her actions or what they really want from her. Because if you read the comics, you know what they really want. So this is the and she's saying, I don't know how any of this started in the first place. So again, brainwashed to me.
Yeah.
If you're saying, if you have a plan to bring back your boo, and you have a plan to live your life that you wasn't able to live because he died, or because you have powers, or because the Sokovia Accords. And remember when she was like, I just want to hide and be happy, when they was in Age of Ultron. I think it was Age of Ultron.
Hmm.
Um, and that's when they had to live in secret for all those years, and they didn't know what was going on, and they lost track, and it was like happy in their little bubble. And then Vision got stabbed to death. But this, if you're fully aware of what you're planning to do, you would know, you know, how this started.
Yeah.
But she has no memory of that, which meant that if you go back to the tapes, um, remember the tapes that Hayward was showing everyone? And she stole the body and the
Yeah.
will. She didn't do that if she doesn't remember that. That looked like it was, if you look at the footage itself, it looked like it was glitchy. It looked like, someone was controlling the footage.
Hmm.
And to me, it seemed like she was brainwashed herself. And this show clearly showed, I'm stuck on Hydra Soap, but it clearly showed this is about brainwashing.
Yeah.
She is not working alone. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I mean, to me, a lot of this stuff, it comes to a head when you point out what we know about Tyler so far,
Hmm.
and how he has tried to manipulate this situation. So yeah, there's a lot of points that she made about certain stuff that she didn't have control over. And then when Vision was mentioning about the fact that there's no other kids, they didn't see any other kids in the neighborhood. All of that is stuff that we definitely, as a viewer, did not catch before. I mean, maybe some people did, but I know I didn't, because I'm only focused on what's happening in that actual household and the people that are right next to him in that neighborhood.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I definitely think there is some brainwash. I like your theory of maybe she did a deal with the devil. Obviously, she does not see Tyler for what his true form is yet.
No.
But we'll see where they're heading with that.
So then they're having that big argument. They calm down, and there's a brief moment where you're able to just breathe, but the tension is still very high. And then there's a doorbell, and then I'm like, "Holy hell, Agnes! Must you always come? We are sick and tired of this mess." I'm pretty sure she'll have like a child in her hands and some pie. So she's like, Wanda's like, I did not do that.
Mhm.
And Vision is like, yeah, but you see, I'm a robot and I know statistics. And this ain't making no sense right now.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, okay, sure, you ain't do this. He's like, I know you knew what happened. And so she goes to the door, and it's like you can feel the tension. And we're
Mhm.
like, please don't let it be Agnes. And she's opening the door, and we see her face. It's like, and then we cut to the base. So we're back outside,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the alarms are blaring. They're just blaring, and then we go back to the house, and this is where we see, the back of this person's head, and their frosted locks, and I'm like, oh my god, it's Pietro,
Mhm.
and we see him from behind, and then we see his face, and then I said, and I said, oh my god, this is
and
like
then
when, yeah.
and then as soon as you saw his face, you said, "Wow, American Horror Stories."
Sure, that's the ultimate crossover. You do know Disney does now own FX.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, so we all know it's Peter Evans, and my God, we knew that Pietro was coming. I had a sense when she mentioned I had a brother. His name was Pietro. I just
Hmm.
had a sense that was coming.
Yep.
But the fact that it was Peter Evans, that this was not Age of Ultron Pietro, who
Yeah.
was
Yep.
played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who I don't know what he's doing anymore, but he was really great as Pietro, and I thought that they shortchanged him. But I was like, what is going on?
I,
So, Yeah.
I will say this. I would hope that there is some type of joke next week about this character looking completely different because and I was surprised that
There is a
she
joke.
recognized. Yeah, well, I know. Vision asked, "Well, who was this guy?"
No,
I
no,
mean,
there's the other joke. You missed the other joke.
which other joke?
So then, so she's like, "Oh my black Jesus," and just like for quickly, if you don't know what's really going on, if you really just don't watch movies, um, Pietro. There's two versions of Pietro. Okay, there is Pietro that we know from Age of Ultron.
Yep,
Then there's Peter. Peter was from the X-Men movie franchise,
yep.
which was done by Fox.
Hmm.
Okay, and that Pietro or that Peter was played by Evan Peters. They could not use the same name. They could not call him Quicksilver, for example. No, did
Hmm.
they call him Quicksilver?
Nope. Well,
No,
I think they did call him.
they called him Quicksilver. They
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah,
call him Quicksilver in this one.
yeah,
So because what happened was Fox owned the rights. Okay?
yep,
But as so there was two separate Peters. One that's in X-Men, one that's in Marvel universe. But now because Disney owns Fox and
yep.
therefore they own X-Men, which people were like, please just bring it back because these films are not good. So they know that. Now they can say Peter, Pietro. They can say whatever it is that they want to say. And so nothing is stopping them from doing this multiverse that we already know existed.
Yeah.
Because what's Doctor Strange? Multiverse. What's Spider-Man 3? Multiverse. We always knew this. I just was thinking Fantastic Four. I was like, oh, Fantastic Four is coming back. Because remember that big speech about half of your men are gone, they were snapped, and the other half was like, nah, I'm bouncing, I don't want to do this no more. So he lost all his people that was in the space, that was space flies, and I'm like, yeah, it's X-Men, they're coming back. They're not X-Men, they're Fantastic Four, they're gonna help. And then Kevin Feige was like, ha ha ha, little do you know nothing. So, this is what everything was like. Oh my god! So I'm like freaking out, and he comes in, and the audience is like silent. And because of this, we're able to get multiverses. We're able to get Pietro, and we're able to get Peters, and they can exist at the same time. Now, this happens to be a very interesting point here because when for those people who use auto description. The auto description described it as that he comes in as Peter from the X-Men franchise. So the auto description lets you know that this is not who you think it is,
Yeah,
that this
yeah.
is the other universe. So this is like, oh my gosh, at this
So,
moment. Yeah.
let me just make this quick comment here. In terms of the shock factor of this particular reveal, I think that this is very smart because it got people talking and wondering how is are they going to use these other characters now that they have the Fox. They have everything that Fox had. So because
Hmm.
we have not seen the Fantastic Four or the X-Men yet
What we
in
have?
these.
We just saw it.
Well, yeah. But now you saw it. So now that you've seen a taste of this, I think it was a good way to introduce this character. What I am curious about is, you know, the other actor that you
Uh-huh.
mentioned, whether or not this character is also going to show up in this show at some point in time.
Maybe because here's the thing: they referred to um, the whole situation as I'm sorry. What was the question?
Oh, it wasn't a question yet. I just was. I was asking whether or not you think the other Quicksilver that we do know is
Hmm.
actually going to show up in this show at some point in time.
I think he did. I mean, here's the thing: could be a reason as to why he's in this universe.
Hmm.
I don't know if he was brought there on purpose. I have a theory that we do know he has speed.
Yeah.
right? And to me, it seemed like during this whole situation, the multiverse was opening, which could be why the alarms are triggering.
Yeah.
Remember, at the base, these alarms, they never got back to why the alarms are triggering. But to me, there's a breach, and I feel that this Peter he was running, doing his normal life thing. He ran maybe too fast, and he broke through a barrier, not knowing. And to
Yep.
him, because to him, he doesn't know what he did, or he doesn't know where he's at. To him, that is his sister, and
Yeah.
he's playing things as normal. Because after that, she's like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" The response, she looks at him, and she's, like, she's like in shock. He's not in shock at all. So he's like, can a long lost bro squeeze his stinking sister to death or what?
Yeah.
Now you could say there's a lot of, foreshadowing with the death. Because we know, you could simply say stinking sister to death. That's just a common, I'm going to squeeze you to death. That's a common phrase. But
Yeah.
in this one, death, he's dead.
Yeah.
Vision's dead. There's a lot of death that's going on. She's trying to get over death. And you could say that this is just, to reiterate or to foreshadow that. Or he genuinely doesn't know what's going on. Because he's not like, oh my gosh, you don't look like who I think you look like. What's going on? What's
Hmm.
around with this whole situation? He's not even saying that at all. He's saying, what's up, sis? I'm gonna squeeze you. You're my I'm your long lost bro. And what did
Hmm.
she say originally to her children? She had a long lost brother.
Yep.
So either he was sent there or he just ran too fast. And because Agnes has that ability to have perfect timing, she could have sent him in instead of her coming in.
Possibly. Yes. Um,
So, yeah.
the other question that I would like to ask that is also related to this is the simple fact that earlier in this episode about
Mhm.
Monica making mention of adding something to that universe that cannot be changed,
That was a
and
drama.
that
Yeah.
and that is what I question whether or not he is the person, or whether there is someone else that they're going to add in a future episode.
You think they added her?
Because
But
I'm trying to remember, did she have any reaction to this breach? Did they show her having a reaction to the breach?
did they show Wanda or Monica?
Monica.
Well, everybody was all like, "What's going on?" Remember, everybody stormed out,
Yeah.
so she
Okay.
could have had that reaction.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that was going on at the same time.
Yeah. So we have to wait and see. But I'm curious to see what is this thing that they're intending to put there that cannot be changed. Because I instantly thought that's why he's there. But then again, I don't recall if Monica had a reaction as if she acts surprised. Because I think what they are setting up is that obviously we know Tyler is not who he is supposed to be.
He
So
is just in the wrong place.
well, yeah, he's in the wrong place. We know that Tyler has a different agenda than Monica and some of the
Yeah.
others.
Hmm.
So it is eventually going to be revealed to Monica that this guy is actually someone she should be concerned about. But I'm wondering if she is already operating off that assumption, whereas though she would do something to go above and beyond, or is she still playing along and not really taking any action against that yet? That's what I think we're going to start to get some answers on in the next couple episodes. Because to me, it wasn't really clear by the end of that episode. I think she knows, yeah, Tyler, obviously, there's something going on with that relationship. I don't think she fully suspects that he is the enemy yet. Maybe she just feels as though there's something up with that. But some of that stuff has to come to light at some point. But yeah, we definitely need to see what is this entity, force, or character that is put into that universe that cannot be changed. That's what I want to see. What exactly that is when they made that comment.
Right. I mean, and there's a lot of things. If you look back, Monica couldn't remember anything
Hmm.
until she touched Wanda in that
Yep.
episode, which means that whoever is controlling Wanda, maybe feeding off or giving her energy or creating these roles. Remember, we do have acting. Remember the guy?
Acting director.
He's the acting director. Usually, you would just say intern. Like acting itself is a term, but usually you would just say I'm the interim director. But the fact that they said acting, and
Yeah,
this
that's
is about
intentional.
TV shows and roles, and I think it's very intentional.
It is intentional because you think about all the thing with Wanda and the universe that she's in. This is a TV show, so it's very ironic that the person behind this also
Mhm.
is acting on in the real world. So yeah, that's a very clever way to implement that whole structure.
Or here's another crazy theory. Ready?
Uh-huh.
Since we are in X-Men territory, and remember, Kevin Feige said, not Kevin Feige, it was Elizabeth Olsen. She gave an interview, and she says that we have a Luke Skywalker of the moment, which means that there's someone from the past that is very huge in the MCU. And
Hmm.
now that Fox owns everything now, not Fox, now that Disney owns Fox and basically everything, this can lead to a very larger person, and many people are speculating that it's Magneto. So I feel, and again, I could be wrong, Magneto has that cap where he's able to keep track of what's going on. The
Hmm.
universe is being shifted, and we saw in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse how that works. And so people are crossing into things that they're not supposed to cross over, that we don't fully know. I don't know if I know that everyone was snapped back in their right place because that could have been another theory.
Hmm.
But I know that everyone snapped back. But we do know that. So if we're gonna mention X-Men, Magneto, he has an ability. He puts that cap on. He sits in that chair. He's able to see and keep track of all of the mutants. So
You
he,
mean Professor X?
Professor X. What did I say?
Yeah,
Magneto?
yeah,
Darn it! I'm getting all of my characters mixed up. But yes,
yeah.
Professor X has the ability to track and see mutants, and he knows clearly what's going on, and he is part of that world that Pietro is in.
Hmm.
Peter. So Peter is able to know who Pietro, that whole thing, and he could just be in there playing a role in order to get her to stop. So there's a lot of people who could have sent her, or he could have just accidentally ran too fast, like you see in the Flash, and he's stuck in a different universe and he doesn't know.
Yeah, that's true.
So, or the theory is he was sent because, my brother was dead. Now he's here. Remember the dog? The dog is dead. Now the dog can be here to get
Hmm.
her, to will her, to bring people back from the dead. Remember, for the children, for the children. And then she had
For
kids.
for yeah, and the brother returns so that
Hmm.
he can play a role.
To,
Also, so he can be a part of next week's credits of whatever show they in whether it's Full House or any other show. Now they have another person they can add to that scene when they introduce the credits of the characters.
because it tells you when if you look at the auto description, it clearly tells you this is not um, our Pietro. It
Wow.
says Wanda opens the door and she sees Pietro from the X-Men films. And this is what they also did that I really loved and was kind of brilliant and it made me cry. So he's opening the door, right? And he's, long lost bro. And then this is when Darcy, she's watching all of this and she's like, they recast Pietro, which is really great because I love that they're acknowledging
Yeah. Yep.
instead of
That
saving,
was the
oh,
joke. Hmm.
great. Instead of saying this is Pietro, they're letting you know we recast Pietro because this is not our Pietro. This is from another universe Pietro.
Hmm.
And so um, this is when Peter, he sees, well, Pietro, whatever you want to call him, Pietro, sees Vision. And he asks, who's the popsicle? And then the credits roll. And you would think, oh, that's just it. Like, oh, who's the popsicle? He looks like a red popsicle. No, this is clever. If you watched X-Men, Days of Future Past, there's a scene where he's running around doing things, right?
Hmm.
I'm trying to remember the exact scene because he's running around and that's when they come and visit him. That's when you see not Magneto, but the one who played Jim, Charles Xavier.
Yeah,
They're in there,
Professor
and
X.
they're Professor X. They're observing everything that he does, and that's when he's zooming around really quick in his house, and at the end of him zooming around, he sits down really casually, and he's eating a red popsicle.
Mm.
So it signifies that this is not our Pietro. This is X-Men's Pietro, and we're fully aware of his actions and everything that he did in that universe. That's why he said red popsicle.
Yeah.
So it's a callback to the
Wow.
X-Men movies.
That's
So
crazy.
it's them, they're fully embracing.
So that means there will be more callbacks next week. And if they do their version of Full House, which I believe they will, this is the character that will be seen as Uncle Jesse. Because he's an
Mm.
uncle to the little kids, you know. So yeah, that makes sense.
That is true. That makes sense to me. So that was WandaVision in a nutshell. But one more thing, very interesting. You know how we had TV shows of the 80s that had crossover episodes? There, for example, it was a shared universe. People don't remember that Family Matters and Full House was a crossover episode. They had
Yes.
crossovers. Remember that? This was their crossover episode. You know, the whole TGI Friday from ABC back
Yeah.
in the 90s, 80s, that whole thing was crossovers that they had. You know, and if you look at you know, it's just something that they always seem to do. So this, I loved how they did this. I love how they're saying, you know, X-Men and the Avengers, they're two separate groups, but we're gonna allow them to cross over. It's not how you thought it was gonna be, but we allowed them to cross over. So, amen to that whole situation there.
Yeah.
But remember, they kind of foreshadowed him coming back. We just didn't pay attention. Jimmy Woo kind of insisted that Wanda doesn't have an alias. Remember, he was like, she doesn't have any aliases or any funny names, but she is known as the Scarlet Witch. But you know, so they're kind of teasing that. So this is just wow. And the fact that it was called Family Ties is the title, you know, of some of the shows. And you know, that was just really amazing. So yeah, and yeah, this is just was really, really great. We just have a lot more answers. That's the only problem with the show. It doesn't, it gives you a little bit, but it still leaves you with a lot of answers.
Oh yeah.
How did you feel?
Oh, I thought it was great. This was, I guess, considered their mid-season finale. I thought it was great in terms of, you know, it answered a lot of the questions that I had, but there's still more questions that have to be answered. So I thought it was pretty good. I must admit that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Vision and Wanda in terms of, if you ask me a list of all the Avenger characters I like, maybe, I mean, I like, obviously the actor and actresses are phenomenal, but I have to admit, I while I am anticipating what is going to happen in the second half of this season, there's no doubt in my mind the show I'm looking forward to is Falcon and Winter Soldier, because I saw a trailer for that a couple of days ago and I'm like, yeah, this needs to come out already. But hey, I'm committed to the process of, because I'm curious to see how they're going to evolve this story, how they're going to tie this into other events that are going to happen later in the universe. So yeah, and the show is they've done an excellent job with the show, no doubt about that. So I'm just curious to see how it's going to end in terms of the direction where it's going. But I'm very intrigued now. Way better than when the show first just started, and then how they ended the episodes, and you're questioning, well, what the hell is going on? Now I'm very intrigued, so I look forward to seeing what happens next week.
I like the episodes from the beginning.
You know?
Everyone was like, "This is boring."
Well, no, I thought you said that the ending though, the episodes are good, but the ending, the way they end the episodes, is like, okay,
Yeah, but I like
it,
the show from beginning to end.
oh,
I loved
okay,
episode 1. You're like,
yeah, because you were saying, yeah, you saying they should have had the first 3 episodes
yeah,
debut.
because here's the thing: people are impatient,
Yeah.
and so if you just show happy, smiling, bewitched, that's not going to click with people. But if you show
Exactly.
happy, smiling, bewitched, then at the end, it's like, what's going on? Then they're
I
going to be
agree.
like, yes, that's how you hook the audience, which is why I think you should have showed the first 3 episodes. Because people dropped off. I think it's silly, but they dropped off.
Hmm. But
And
they'll come
yeah,
back now because they want to hear what everybody is talking about.
maybe. Who knows? So we do have a statement from Garrett Glass, who
I
says,
remember this guy. I remember this guy.
he says, my guess is Agnes is the one controlling Wanda, or at least a physical representation of the entity controlling her. Oh, I never thought of that.
That's a good one.
She has witnessed Wanda change reality a few times now and hasn't questioned it. That is actually a possibility. I never thought of that.
That's a very good
Not at
theory,
all.
Mr. Glass.
Very good theory. So yeah. But that is everything that happened, and now I'm even more excited.
We're gonna have to revisit that to see if that theory
yeah.
came true next week.
See, here's the thing. I do want to say that, but there was that, and I know it's just a clip that we saw in the trailer.
Mhm.
Remember, it was Vision when he touched Agnes' head, and she was like, "You're dead." You know, she seemed like she was kind of got out of that trance.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like she may be controlled too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everybody is acting
Mhm.
within that universe. So yeah, that's certainly possible.
Might be the mailman.
The mailman, yeah, the mailman too. Yeah, I
We
think
never see his face.
everybody, and then of course the person when they had the second episode when they was at the doing the magic show, the other person she was talking to, with the blonde
Dottie.
hair, Dottie. Yes,
See,
that person
yeah.
also is someone to be you need to watch out for. So
I don't trust Dottie.
yeah.
I can't trust Dottie at all. So Garrett says no real evidence, I admit.
Uh oh.
We all have theories. That's all we just do. We're just trying to work out theories. No one knows anything at this point. And that's what's so good. It's the fact that they keep us guessing. And I think this is why the show kind of works for the once a week format instead of binging.
Yeah.
But I do love everything that they're doing. I think that this is going to be amazing and sad. I'm just waiting to get depressed because it's coming.
There will be. It will not be a happy conclusion to this particular story.
No.
Because of all the stuff going on with Wanda, the stuff that the loss that she have suffered in the past. Whatever happens, it will not end well. I mean, yeah, they'll probably get the bad guy, or they'll hold off the bad guy long enough for this person to come up in a second season if they have a second season. But yeah, it's not going to end well. Vision, we will get an answer. I do believe we will get an answer about Vision, though, and whether or not Vision is alive or dead by the end of this season.
He could be alive. See, that just goes to me with that whole Shuri thing. Because remember, they showed Shuri trying to upload his consciousness into the Wakandan, I don't know, internet database, something. They was uploading it into something. Yeah. And that's because I'm so adamant that this has to be, he can't be dead, but at the same time, he needs to die.
Yeah.
I just need him to go. And, I just don't want this to be, and it was all a dream at the end of the whole episode. That's why
no.
It was just a dream.
It can't be that. It definitely better not be that.
And she wakes up, and all she did was she passed out in her grief when she was with Hawkeye at the end during, the funeral.
Oh, no.
I hope it's not that.
I'll be very disappointed if it was all just a dream.
I would be so disappointed and so just kind of upset. But Marvel is much smarter than that. They've outsmarted people and they've kept everyone guessing. So I am looking forward to whatever sadness and happiness and craziness that they take us on. Remember, we're supposed to get this huge kind of what would you call it? Uh, person coming, the Luke Skywalker moment,
Yeah, I
which
want to see who that is.
I hope it's not Magneto in the sense
It
that that
it,
just
it,
seems so easy.
it has to be. It has to be a bigger,
It has
a
to be.
bigger deal, a more important character.
And then maybe we're looking at the wrong franchise. It was
Yeah.
Uncle Ben all along. It was Uncle Ben.
Yeah, he comes back alive. That's wow. I hardly see this character alive in anything anymore. So that would be very interesting.
This is what my life would have been if I hadn't died, Peter. This is your fault. Direct ties into Doctor Strange and Spidey 3. But yeah, that is basically everything that kind of happened. We are looking forward to it again. Looking forward to all of the shows, and yeah, soon March will be approaching, and then there will be Loki.
Yes.
So, thank you everyone for joining us, and have a great day, night, evening, afternoon.
Yes.
Any words from you, Richard?
Oh no! Thank everybody for watching. Shout out to Mr. Gary Glass. Great questions. Definitely come back next week. We will be talking about episode 6.
Mm-hmm. So, and we're at the final act. If you look at this is like a 3-act play. Remember, there's only 9 episodes.
Oh yeah. You're right. Wow.
So we're
a
in
lot,
the
lot about
final.
to happen. Then a lot is about to
A
happen.
lot is about to happen. We're in that final act now. So this should be great and wonderful and depressing. So thank you everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Yes.